Welcome to The Critique. Today, we're looking at a video commentary on the internal conflict in conservative media, specifically the one involving Candace Owens, Carrie Prejean, and Megyn Kelly over the Israel-Hamas war.
Yeah, it's a complicated subject, and to be honest, this submission feels a little too much like the mess it's trying to analyze. We need to clean this up, because the opening, right out of the gate, is just actively pushing potential listeners away.
You're hitting on my first big note. The opening segment suffers from a lack of immediate relevance. It has this long, informal preamble that has zero to do with the actual topic.
It's not just informal, it feels like a barrier. I'm looking at the script here, and what do we have? It's like 3 or 4 minutes dedicated to a recap of some other live stream.
A 3.5-hour live stream, yeah.
Right, and a shout out to someone called Jay Witt, and then this just bizarrely long tangent about Australian wildlife.
The Great Emu War.
The Great Emu War. I mean, we're supposed to be analyzing this major fracture in the Republican Party over anti-Semitism, and I'm hearing a story about Australia losing a war to flightless birds.
And look, I get it. It builds rapport with your loyal followers.
Sure, for the diehards. But for anyone who clicked on that video to hear about Candace Owens or Carrie Prejean,
They're gone. They've already clicked off.
Exactly. The weakness here is that you're delaying the main hook. The whole point, the newsy part, is that Carrie Prejean got fired.
That's the click. That's the news.
And when you bury that under spiders and emus, you're basically telling the audience that your political analysis is, secondary to whatever's on your mind.
It signals a lack of discipline. And as a new viewer, I'm thinking the rest of the video is going to be just as unfocused.
So the fix isn't just about trimming it. The suggestion is to completely change the philosophy of the opening. You need to adopt a cold open strategy.
Absolutely. Place the most newsworthy part right at the very beginning. At second 0, move all the personal updates and housekeeping stuff to the end.
So let's make that concrete. Right now, the script just sort of wanders into the topic. Instead, your very first sentence needs to be the bombshell.
Carrie Prejean was just kicked off the Religious Liberties Commission by Dan Patrick.
Boom, that's it. That's your inciting incident. You start there. You can play a clip, read the headline, whatever.
And once you've established the stakes, then you can introduce yourself. But you have to earn that patience first.
And while we're making cuts here, we have to talk about the self-deprecation. The speaker literally tells the audience that their brain is mush.
Oh, I can't stand that.
It just kills your credibility, doesn't it? You should never apologize for the quality of your analysis before you've even given it.
Right.
So, a concrete example. Cut the mush brain meta-commentary completely. If you tell your audience you're tired and unfocused, they're going to believe you, and they'll leave.
And the Emu War story. It's funny, it's interesting, but move it. Relocate it to a post-credits bit for the superfans who stick around.
Exactly. Don't let a flightless bird get in the way of your political commentary.
So, okay, let's say we fix the open. We get right to the point. Then you hit the second major problem.
The tone.
The tone. Even if you hook the audience, the language choices start to undermine your own authority.
The reliance on ad hominem attacks and all these derogatory nicknames, it's pervasive. It neutralizes any sense of objectivity.
It's just playground stuff. I mean, calling Candace Owens Candy.
Referring to people as dingbats, saying they're extremely dumb, or that there are not many neurons circulating around.
I'm sure it feels good to say it. It's venting, right? But the weakness is that it makes the speaker sound emotional, not analytical.
Exactly. If you're just shouting that someone has no neurons, you're not actually taking apart their argument. You're just insulting them.
And it makes it so easy for a skeptic to dismiss the whole thing as just, a hate watch instead of a real critique.
And you lose so much opportunity. I mean, these people, Owens and Prejean, they are making these very controversial, very verifiable claims. The suggestion here is to elevate the whole conversation. Focus on their logical fallacies, not their supposed IQ scores. You can be so much more devastating by proving someone's a hypocrite than by just calling them stupid.
Okay, so let's apply that. The candy nickname. Every time the speaker uses it, the argument just shrinks a little.
It does.
So a concrete example. Just replace Candy with Candace Owens. Use her full name. It creates a professional distance. You're examining a political figure, not getting into a tiff with a rival.
And the dingbat comment about Carrie Prejean's appearance on Dr. Phil, calling her a dingbat is just lazy.
As your metric for her credibility gap. Don't tell me she's a dingbat. Show me that even the king of televised nonsense couldn't take her seriously. Now that is a powerful critique.
It's 1,000 times more effective. Same thing with the no neurons comment about Candace Owens. The speaker's reacting to her claim that Zionism is just patriotism.
Right.
So instead of calling her dumb, deconstruct the actual claim.
Exactly. A real example would be to compare her definition of Zionism there, it's just patriotism, with her other comment, the stuff about the synagogue of Satan or political gangs.
Show the contradiction.
Yes. Prove that her definition changes based on who she's attacking. That shows she's intellectually dishonest, which is a much more serious charge than just having a mushy brain.
It turns the whole thing from a rant into like a forensic analysis. And that rigor needs to carry over into how the evidence is handled. Because right now, the speaker references all these events, but doesn't really use them to land a punt.
The critique of their arguments gets buried under these big generalizations. The speaker just assumes we all know the context, so they rush past the smoking gun.
I really noticed this with the whole Super Bowl versus Turning Point USA thing. The speaker says Candace is big mad about the Super Bowl performance and then just claims the Turning Point event was better.
Right, but there's no backup. The weakness is that the evidence is just presented as an opinion. I think Turning Point was better.
It's my vibe versus your vibe.
Exactly. It's not an argument. So the suggestion is to slow down on these key points of evidence. If you're going to make that comparison, you have to fully explain the contradiction it revealed.
So with the Bad Bunny segment, for example, the speaker is mocking Candace for hating the Super Bowl but loving the Turning Point event.
Okay, so a concrete fix there is to really expand on the success metric they mentioned. Don't just say people loved the Turning Point event more. Detail the reaction. What were the view counts? What was the crowd energy like?
Right.
Use that to logically dismantle her argument that the Super Bowl was degenerate. Show that her preferred alternative used the same aesthetic. It failed to connect with anyone.
You have to do the math for the listener. Don't just gesture at the problem. But for me, the most frustrating missed opportunity was that interview with Shabbos Kestenbaum.
Oh, that was the moment. That was the moment to really win the whole argument. And the speaker just punted.
Completely. Carrie Prejean asks him, "Are you willing to condemn what Israel has done?" And the speaker's reaction is to call her a Catholic activist and talk about replacement theology.
Which is just a distraction. It's this theological rabbit hole that most of the audience won't follow.
And the real political argument is sitting right there.
It's right there. So the concrete fix is to pivot immediately to the human shields rebuttal. The transcript mentions the figure 50,000 Hamas fighter. That's the winning point.
Yes.
Forget her Catholicism. Just clearly contrast her loaded question with the reality of Hamas using human shields. Explain that her question implies this moral equivalence that the numbers just completely demolish.
Make the human shield argument the absolute focus. You strip out all the demonic theology talk, which, is going to alienate a ton of people, and you stick to the statistics.
It makes the rebuttal bulletproof.
And it ties everything back to the core theme. Right? It highlights the hypocrisy of a member of the Religious Liberties Commission ignoring the religious liberties of the people being used as shields.
Yes, which brings us to the cast of character. The script is so dense with names. You've got Candace, Carrie, Megyn, Laura Loomer, Dan Patrick.
It's a full ensemble, but it feels more like a mosh pit. The relationships and alliances are really muddled.
And that domino effect, the speaker wants to show how one firing leads to another person's reaction. It gets lost because they jump around too much.
I was trying to map it out in my head, and I honestly got lost. We're told that Megyn Kelly's support for Prejean is going to massively backfire, but it's not really clear why Kelly is even supporting her or where Laura Loomer fits in.
The listener has to work way too hard to build the hierarchy. The weakness is a lack of narrative architecture. We're just jumping from a tweet to a video to a grievance without any kind of clear chain of command.
So we need signposting. The suggestion is to use clear signposting to establish the alliances before you critique them.
A great way to do that, a concrete example, is to restructure that whole narrative block into a linear timeline. First, establish Prejean's removal by Dan Patrick. That's fact number one.
The baseline.
Second, explain Candace's defense of Prejean. That's the reaction. Third, introduce Megyn Kelly platforming Prejean as an escalation of that defense.
Action, reaction, escalation.
Exactly. And then you bring in Laura Loomer. Explicitly link her comment, what was it, birds of a feather?
Yeah, something like that.
Link that to Megyn Kelly earlier. Don't just leave Loomer's quote dangling at the end. Use it to reinforce that alliance theme. Show the audience that these figures are forming a very specific faction against the mainstream right.
That makes the stakes so much clearer. If you present them as this unified front, then the whole argument about the collapse of the Republican Party actually means something.
You can see the fault lines.
And you have to separate the timeline. Right now, the Religious Liberties Commission firing and the Super Bowl rant are sort of blended into one big ball of chaos.
Right.
A better way would be to clearly separate them. Use the religious liberties issue to show their political incompetence, and then use the Super Bowl issue to show their cultural isolation.
So they become two distinct examples of the same core problem.
Correct. It helps the listener categorize the information. Here is why they are failing at politics, and here is why they are failing at culture. When you mix them, it all just becomes noise.
Okay, so if we pull all this together, what we have is a script that has a lot of good passion, a lot of the right instincts, but it's just constantly tripping over its own feet.
We're tightening the ship. So, to recap, first, the intro. Cut the spiders, cut the shoutouts. Start with the firing of Carrie Prejean. A cold open.
Second, the tone. No more nicknames. Dingbat and Kennedy are out. Replace the insults with sharp analysis. Use their own words against them.
Third, the evidence. Don't just give an opinion on the Super Bowl. Use metrics. Don't just mock the Kestenbaum interview. Use the human shield data to dismantle the argument.
And finally, the narrative. Map out the alliances for us. Show that chain reaction. Dan Patrick to Candace Owens to Megyn Kelly. Make the Civil War easy to follow.
If you do all that, this piece transforms from what feels like a fan service live stream into a really potent piece of political commentary, something that could actually persuade a neutral viewer.
And at the end of the day, that's the goal, right? You want to change minds, not just preach to the choir.
So, we invite the listener to apply these edits, clean up the banter, sharpen the arguments, and map out the narrative, and then send the work back in for a final polish. There is a very strong argument buried in here. We just need to help you dig it out.
Absolutely.
That does it for this critique. Thanks for listening.